Hey everybody, good evening. Welcome to a special Wednesday night live stream. We don't do live streams a whole lot on Wednesday nights. It is Wednesday, right? My days are mixed up. But I wanted to do. It's been a long time since we've done an unsolved live stream where we take a look at. And I just once again. The dumpster fire has already started. Can't keep StreamYard up on my laptop. So I may just have to give up. But anyway, it's been a long time since we've done our unsolved lives where we take a look at unsolved cold case homicides. So we're going to do that tonight. And I think I have 7 cases. I'm trying to see what my computer's doing. 7 cases to go over, just from different cases from around the United States. And I did put, you probably saw at the beginning, I put the content warning so tonight is definitely going to be adult content, trigger warning, because it does involve homicides, and some of the circumstances of the homicides are very disturbing, obviously. So if you feel that you can or don't want to watch something like this, that is perfectly fine. I understand. So you can just click off. You can feel free to go over to the channel or stay on the channel, check out my playlist for live streams and videos that I've done previously, and take a look at those. But just these unsolved homicides, especially these cold cases, are so very important to bring awareness to. I mean, I think we have one or two that 35 years unsolved, 40 years unsolved. So that's why I wanted to share these tonight. And if this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for deciding to hang out with us tonight to learn about some of these cases. So before we go any further, Let's see if I can get this to work. If not, I'll just shut down StreamYard on my computer and just work off my phone as usual. We'll see who is here. Lisa Joe is here. Hello, ma'am. It is always good to see you. There's Miss Marion. Haven't seen her in a while. I see her on Facebook. But she says, hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here and supporting the families and sharing our stories about our loved ones. We love you, Southern Gal. I love you too, Miss Marion. Justice for all. Absolutely. Absolutely. Miss Paula is here. It'll come up. I might be fixing to lose it on my computer again. I'll just do it off the screen. Miss Paula is here. Thank you for being here, Miss Paula. Always good to see you. Miss Paula says, is the West Memphis 3 case considered a cold case? That depends on who you ask. Honestly, it depends on who you ask. Some say it's solved. Some say it's not. Yeah, there it goes. I think I'm just gonna shut down StreamYard on my computer, so that way my articles that I'm going to read from will load. So that means I'll have to read the comments off my phone. So I had to bring it a little bit closer. So forgive me for leaning into the camera. I may just turn off the camera when I'm reading comments. But yeah, it's just all who, just depends on who you talk to. What do you consider it, Miss Paula? Do you consider it a cold case? Do you think it was solved? Who knows? Or anybody in chat, let me know. Or if you're watching replay, thank you. If you're watching replay crew, please leave a comment below to let me know your replay crew and your thoughts on the West Memphis 3 case. Do you think it's a cold case? Do you think it's solved? Once again, it all depends on who you talk to. There's Mustang. No, I don't want to put Mustang in timeout. Mustang is here. Welcome, my dear. Good to see you. Thank you. Mustang is getting in links for me. Thank you so much. There is Miss Paula's link. Let's see. Yes, absolutely. Stop it. My fingers are getting ahead of me. Mustang says, yes, do all the things. Hit the thumbs up. Yeah, please do give it a like. Like I said, if you're new here, we share missing persons, cold cases, some true crime in the news. I feature mostly cold cases here on the channel because they are very important. And sometimes, a lot of times, the cold cases just kind of fall through the cracks, fall to the wayside. So that is why we feature and talk about so many cold cases here. So Mustang says, in her opinion, officially, West Memphis 3 is closed. So there you go. So Paula says, yes, you do think it's a cold case. Fair enough. Fair enough. Mustang says that she thinks the West Memphis 3 did it. Yeah, like I said, I'm, you know, I don't know for sure. I have my opinions, but speaking of West Memphis 3, we're still waiting on the testing of the evidence. As far as I know, it has been sent out to whatever lab they send it to, and who knows how long it'll take to test it, and if they can even get anything from it. And you know, the other problem we run into with the evidence is if they do get anything off of it, whether it be from the 3 or from somebody else or from somebody unknown, is that it's just that there's been no chain of command. It was supposed, you know, it got lost. It supposedly burned up in, you know, in a fire, and then it magically reappeared. So there's been no chain of command. So so if they did find DNA from somebody and prosecuted them, the defense team would have no problem saying, hey, this can't be admitted into evidence, or in my opinion, I'm no expert, you know, but they could say it, you know, there's no chain of command. Who knows who's touched this, what's happened to it. So it probably would not even be admitted into evidence. Now that's just my my thinking, my opinion. Once again, I'm by no means an expert on the judicial system, but and I agree with Miss Paula says. I don't. There's a lot of unanswered questions. I agree. There are a lot of unanswered questions. I do agree with that. Absolutely. We'll see. Maybe one more time if I can get StreamYard to come up. Sometimes after a minute it will come up. And then we will get to our homicide cases. I was cold earlier and now I am burning up. Never fails. As soon as I start sit down to do a live stream, it gets hot in here. But the heat just came on, so yeah, I don't think it's going to come up. So maybe not. We'll see. Oh, did I close out my other tab? Dadgummit. I think I lost my tabs. All right, so let me go ahead and put it in my slideshow. So all the cases that we're going to talk about tonight, I found them on the website solvethecase.org. Now I got to get my, hold on. Train wreck. I'm having a combination of Miss Doodle's train wreck and my dumpster fire. I closed out all my tabs, so now I got to get them back up for my articles. Oh, goodness. Okay. So, like I said, all the cases, I just went through browsing cases, looking for mostly cold cases, from solvethecase.org. And I think I did I know I put the individual links to the cases in the description, but it's just solvethecase.org. I encourage anybody who's interested in unsolved, well, they do feature missing persons cases, homicide cases, fugitive from justice cases. So I encourage anybody to go over there, check it out, browse the cases, see if anything catches your eye that you might want to share, or if you're a creator or just want to post something, if you're on any social media platforms, just share the links to the cases. Definitely do that, because every case deserves awareness. Absolutely. See, somebody snuck in here. I saw, hold on, let me get caught up once again. I will turn my camera off when I'm leaning in reading comments. So my big fat face won't be in here. I don't know why. Okay, there's where I left off. You're welcome, Miss Paula. Miss Farr is here. Welcome, Miss Farr. She says, "Hey, all, I got a headache. I'm sorry. Listening and laying down. I hope you get to feeling better." Headaches. Oh, gosh. Headache. I think I would. I don't know. I hate having headaches, especially migraines. I hardly ever get a migraine. And I don't think when I get I call them migraines, but I don't think they're actually migraines. But, I have sometimes every once in a while I get a headache bad enough where, to make me nauseous, and I just have to lay down and basically, curl up in the fetal position and put my head under the covers and take some aspirin or something to make it, something over the counter to help it go away. But yeah, I hate having a headache. So I hope you get to feeling better, Miss Farr. Let's see. Chris is here. Welcome. He says, I'm here, barely focusing, but just thought I'd check in. Thank you for checking in, Chris. I hope you're feeling better. Let's see. Hey, Patriotism. Good to see you, my friend. Welcome, welcome. Glad you can make a live. Make sure nobody's Pardon me, I'm having trouble. Jen 38, welcome. That is a new name for me. Welcome, welcome. Unless it's somebody that's changed their name to a different name. But welcome, Jen. We are good to have, glad to have you here. I can't talk as usual. Welcome, welcome. You can tell us how you found us. If not, that is perfectly fine. We are just glad that you did find us. There's our Doodle. Hello, Miss Doodle. How are you doing, my friend? I hope you are doing well. Make sure nobody else. Oh, is Miss Doodle been not feeling well either? Yeah, this is the time of year where it just, there's always something going on, some kind of sickness going around. Patriotism says I was ninja watching you Monday night. That is fine. As long as you were watching, that is all that counts. GM says I am GP. You'll have to remind me. GP sounds familiar. Now, once again, I'm old and my memory is not that good. But welcome again. Yep, Miss Paula says it's nice seeing everyone. Absolutely. Oh, Doodlebug has the fevers. I'm sorry, Doodle. Chris says he's excited for Gen 38 to be here. Well, I'm excited too. Absolutely. Do you mean JP? Is it JP? But GP. Is that JP? I don't know. I'm confused. It's either GP or JP. Oh, all right. I think I'm caught up, so I'll mark right there. We will get started with our first case. Oh, let me turn my camera back on. So first we have, and what did I do with my stylus? I'm going to use my stylus. First we have Amber Marie Berbiglia. So this case is from Horry County, South Carolina, and it is from 2013, May 3rd, 2013. So I'm just going to begin with the information from the solvedthecase.org website. And it says Amber Berbiglia's case remains a haunting mystery 11 years after her brutal homicide on May 3rd, 2013. Amber was found. So once again, it's on the crawler underneath, but just trigger warning for just the whole, just in general, trigger warning. Like I said earlier, obviously the nature of these homicides, some of them were very brutal. I'm going to keep it as least graphic as possible, but no way around it. It is still obviously disturbing. So Amber was found beaten to death near her car on Old Sanders Drive under the Robert Edge Parkway overpass in Little River, South Carolina. The car was still running. Her purse and money were still in the vehicle. It said that she had not been SA'd. The autopsy revealed that she had been struck twice in the head. They said it was a violent and puzzling ending for a young woman who had a promising future ahead of her. So a little bit about Amber. She was a 23-year-old aspiring fashion designer. She had recently returned from studying fashion design in London. She was found dead once again near her car under this freeway overpass. Initially, police believed that she had been GSW'd, but the autopsy later revealed that she'd been beaten to death, suffering the 2 fatal blows to the head. Her body was discovered actually by 2 teenage boys who were out mud bogging in their vehicles. The car was still running once again, and her phone was still receiving messages, was just inches away. So I'm assuming the phone was found not in the car maybe, but outside the car, very near to the car, and it said it was still receiving messages. So the investigation revealed that Amber had spent the hours before her homicide running errands. She had paid her cable bill. She had stopped at a gas station. She was captured on surveillance footage at this gas station. Despite her seemingly random homicide in broad daylight, police have struggled to identify a suspect. One of the few leads included a mysterious figure seen in her car in surveillance footage, though the individual has never been identified. So I think it may tell later on, but I think maybe when they saw this mysterious figure in the surveillance footage, it may have been the surveillance footage from the gas station that she stopped at. I lost my place. So Amber's fiance, Jose Soler, he was quickly ruled out as a suspect. He had an airtight alibi because he was in Europe at the time. So that is definitely an airtight alibi. Despite efforts by the Horry County Police Department, the investigation quickly hit a dead end. Amber's case was moved to the cold case files just 3 months after this happened. This left her family obviously devastated and frustrated by the lack of progress. Amber's family has worked tirelessly to keep her memory alive and to seek justice. And they did erect a memorial where she was found underneath this overpass. So to this day, Amber's homicide remains unsolved, and her family continues to hope for new information that might lead to answers. So if you have any information, I think I remembered to put all the numbers on the slides, but I can't read my slides, so I have to. So the Horry County Police Department in South Carolina is in charge, or the lead. So you can contact them at 843-915-5350, or you can email hillj@horrycounty.org if you have any information. And I think I was able to find just 2 or 3 shorter articles, some interviews with her mother, I believe, and maybe law enforcement. Hopefully they will come up in a timely manner. For some reason today, our cell service, because I go through my phone Wi-Fi hotspot on my phone to run everything, and everything has been running really slow today for some reason. Right, so this first article is from May of 2025, and I believe it has some statements from her mother. It says, "Who would do this to her? 12 years later, Grand Strand mother seeks answers in daughter's homicide." Saturday, May 3rd will mark an anniversary that no family ever wants to go through. Absolutely. It will be 12 years since Amber Berbiglia was found brutally beaten to death under the Robert Edge Parkway near North Myrtle Beach. Her car was still running and her phone was chirping from missed notifications. And I wonder maybe if some of these messages, this is just speculation on my part, if some of these notifications or messages that she was getting might have been from friends or family wondering where she was. Maybe she was supposed to have been back by a certain time and they were messaging her to see where she was. To me, that's just heartbreaking and just sends shivers up my spine to think that, if, friends or family were messaging her and, not knowing that she was unfortunately already deceased. Just heartbreaking. So since that day, no one has been arrested in the case. However, her mother has not given up in the hope of answering the one question that she has been asking for nearly 12 years. It's longer now. Michelle Robinson, who is Amber's mother, says, "Who would do this to her?" She just lit up the room. While a memorial now fills the spot where crime scene tape once occupied, Robinson still searches for answers. The case was marked unresolved just 3 months after it happened. joining a list of cold cases in Horry County. Horry County Police Captain Gregory Lint said, quote, "We do have a number of unresolved cases here in Horry County dating back as far as 1976 that we still continue to look and review periodically." So Horry County Police said there are currently 57 unresolved cases in the county. Now, remember, this is from 2025. Robinson said she has long felt that the county was too quick to mark her daughter's case as unresolved. Now, it said, it was 3 months, which does seem like a short period of time. But then again, if they followed up, on if they had any leads, any and every lead they had, I mean, if you follow up all the leads and you end up just a dead end after dead end after dead end, then, I mean, there's really nothing they can do but, set it to the side and hope that some other tips or any other kind of information does come in. So Robinson, her mother answered after WNBF News asked how it made her feel when Horry County Police labeled the case as unresolved. Her mom said that she felt just abandoned. And that's absolutely understandable. Lint said the department has 2 dedicated detectives for the unresolved cases. He said that it is tricky because they have to come up with a theory, they have to test the theory, and then see if it checks out or if the process has to start over. So basically, if, like I said, that's what I was saying, if they have a theory or a lead, they follow it as far as it goes. If it leads to nothing, then they just have to start all over again with any other leads. But Lint did say that there is one person who could put this case to rest immediately. He said, quote, "There is at least somebody out there who particularly knows what happened to Amber, and I offer that person today, if they have the means and ability to come forward and sit down and speak with us and explain what occurred." So I'm assuming maybe he was referring to whoever the offender was, or maybe somebody who may have seen something, knows something. We all know that a lot of offenders can't keep their mouth shut, so they're sometimes they do tell at least one person. So Robinson, her mom said at the end of the day, she is confident that there will be a resolution to Amber's case. She shared, quote, I've got faith in God that this justice system will work out. Lint said they do continue to meet with Amber's family and will not stop working to catch the person who took Amber's mother's whole world. Lint said, quote, "We will not give up. We will do everything we can to be able to find the person responsible." That's a promise that Robinson continues to hold on to. It's her daughter's voice, a reminder of who she's lost that keeps her fighting for justice. She says, "I will do whatever I have to do to try and find out who did this horrible thing." So apparently on May 3rd of 2025, they had a vigil to remember Amber and to pray for a resolution. Once again, if you have any information that can help police solve the case, you're asked to call the Horry County PD at 843-915-8477. Just heartbreaking, especially when reading the statements and everything from the mamas. It's just, it gets me every time. So I got another one on the 12th anniversary that may be in the same. Yeah, it's just talking about the memorial. I'm just going to scan through it to see if it has any different statements or information. So her mom, don't go away. What are you doing? No, I don't want the mystery box sweets. What are you doing? Anyway, so Amber's mom said, quote, "She was the light of my life. We were very close. She was my best friend, my support, probably everything you would want in a daughter." So hope resurfaced for friends and family of Amber. The cold case was featured on Nancy Grace in October of 2024. Gina Stevens, who's a family friend and admin of the Justice for Amber Facebook page, encouraged Robinson to inquire with the Horry County Police Department about any progress in the investigation. It said that the HCPD has met with Robinson on a near monthly basis since November of 2024. Robinson, who once again is Amber's mother, says, quote, "I've sat for years with nothing. I really feel like 12 years ago, they did not do what they were supposed to do as far as getting DNA and getting certain things. So now, 12 years later, it's been reopened, and I am very grateful. We're going to find something out. I have faith." So I wonder what she meant by she said that they didn't do what they were supposed to do as far as getting DNA. You would think that they would have processed the vehicle and around the vehicle. So Amber's father, Peter, flew in from New York for this year's or 2024's memorial service. Marks the first time that he had set foot in Myrtle Beach. His reason for attending was simply that he finally felt that he was ready to. Stevens, who was Stevens? Gina Stevens, she was the friend of the family, spoke passionately at the beginning of the memorial service. She said, quote, "Somebody out there knows something, and we asked the public, please speak up. If you saw Amber that day as she was running her errands, please speak up. No detail is too small." And we all know that is absolutely true. No detail is ever too small. If you see something, say something. If you know something, say something. If you heard something, say something. Which is so very important. So Stevens continued her dedicated efforts throughout her visit in north of Myrtle Beach to spread the word of Amber's homicide. She handed out silicone wristbands with the Facebook page's website, and she wore a bright orange T-shirt with Amber's photo on it. She said, quote, "It's been really receptive. We went to a restaurant and we gave one to the waitress, and next thing I know, she's got the bartender over. She's got the other servers coming over, and I'm like, this is amazing. This is the word of mouth and exposure that we need." Stevens also said that a bartender at their resort knew Amber personally. Gregory Liet, once again, who is the captain of HCPD's Criminal Investigation Division, said a number of detectives have been dedicated to this case, and HCPD is in constant communication with Amber's family, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, and still consider it an active investigation. So Lynch said in an April 16th interview, quote, "When you're investigating a case, you come up with a theory as to what you believe occurred. You do your best to be able to prove or disprove that theory. If you get to the point where you disprove it, you take a step back and come up with another theory. And we have been doing that with Amber's case since the day it occurred." Lynn also specified the case was never closed, but remained unsolved. So, like we said earlier, they didn't close it, but after 3 months, they put it in the cold case files, basically, and just set it to the side. All right, so that is about all the information in that one. I think I have one more, maybe with some more statements from Amber's mother. And this article is from April of 2025. Horry County mother mourns daughter's unsolved death on 12-year anniversary. So this is once again the 12-year anniversary. The unsolved case of an Horry County woman is coming up on 12 years since she was found deceased on the side of the road in 2013. Amber Berbiglia's mom, Michelle, says that she's been asking what happened to my daughter since May 3rd, 2013, and police say no arrests have been made in the case. Amber was found deceased on the side of a North Myrtle Beach road next to her still running car near Robert Edge Parkway. Robinson, Michelle Robinson, who is Amber's mother, says, "What has it been like every holiday and on birthdays?" She said, "It's horrendous. It's really horrendous. Just can't imagine." So officials once again ruled her death a homicide from blunt force trauma. Her mother says, quote, "It's something you think would never happen to you. You see it on TV. It did happen, and it is a friggin' nightmare with no answers. And hearing that she was brutally beaten, I just cannot picture that." Robinson said that Amber was only weeks from college graduation and pursuing a career in the fashion industry. She says she was bubbly, she was outgoing, and she was no doubt a fashionista. So for nearly 12 years now, Robinson says that she has been left to fight to get justice for her daughter. Horry County Police have recently stayed closer in touch, pursuing possible leads, she said. However, she said that she is still hurt that her daughter's death has gone unresolved for so long. She said, quote, "If it was their daughter, I'm certain it would have been right. It would have been right on top. They would be having people look left and right and doing their job, whatever they had to do," end quote. Robinson said that it is alarming that her daughter's offender has walked the streets for 12 years. She said losing a child is a wound that will never heal, but that she knows her daughter would not want her to be sad forever. Because of that, she said her fire has reignited to continue down the path to get answers. She says, "I want justice to be served. If it takes forever, I will keep speaking up." Robinson said that she can't get those answers without the public's help, so she is asking anyone who might know something to call the Horry County Police tip line. Once again, they had the vigil, so that was all in that. There was no other new information in that article. Once again, just so sad with these mamas. Breaks my heart. So I'm wondering, was it somebody local? How well known was this under this overpass where she was found? Was it someone that was it a place that somebody that's not local could have easily found and or is it a place where locals only knew about it? Because it said that she was found actually by two teenagers who were down there mud riding. So that just makes me wonder. Let me know what you guys think, obviously in chat, or if you're watching replay, leave a comment. Just very, very sad. All right, let me get caught up in your comments once again. I think I remembered. I'm trying to find where I left off. Okay, there's where I left off. Okay, Chris says GP is an OG around YouTube. Okay, all right. I know the name sounds familiar. Patriotism says, "Can we see the moo cow, please?" Well, you know what's got to happen to see the moo cow. Hopefully we can see the moo cow sometime tonight. Let's see. Yeah, Patriotism says this is a sad case. Absolutely. Excellent. Chris says Jen 38 is a very good, kind-hearted lady. Absolutely. That's what we like around here. Nice, good, kind people. Because this community and this channel is a drama-free channel. Absolutely. We don't have a lot of trouble with trolls, although we did have, what was it, on our Missing Person Monday live stream, we had a couple that came in, but they were dealt with accordingly, thanks to our wonderful mods that we have here. Thank you very much. Mustang got Doodlebugs link in. Okay, Jen 38 says, I am Nicole Bowen's aunt that was unalived by Garrett Kurtz and the whole crew. All righty. I will look into your niece's case, most definitely. Just let me know anything I can do. I can do a live stream. I can do a video. Just absolutely let me know. And thoughts, prayers, and good vibes to your family. Absolutely. Yeah, YouTube, I don't know what it is with YouTube, but it has been changing up the names. Names look different. Now, sometimes if it has, most of the time I can recognize most names. But I do remember GP. GP, absolutely. Thank you, Mustang. How old was Amber? Amber was, I'm thinking, I think it's 23. Let me go back to her, to the other, one second. It's taking my articles a little bit to come up. Like I said, my farm signal, 23. Yes, she was 23 years old. Young lady. Yep, very sad. Yes, once again, do all the things. Chris says, I'm thinking that I might be familiar with one of these cases. Did you cheat? Did you look at or not cheat? Because all the links to everything, to all the cases we talked about and all the online sources, as always, are linked in the description box. So please feel free to read them at your own leisure, share them, whatever you want to do with them. Paula wants to know if they have any suspects. Not that they said. Because they cleared the boyfriend because he had the definitely airtight alibi. He was in Europe at the time. So as far as I know, everything I've read, they have no suspects. Except for, and I know I read all the articles. Now they did mention in one of the articles that in the surveillance video that they did see some kind of a shadowy figure in her vehicle. Now I don't know if it's a surveillance video from the gas station. As far as I know, that's the only surveillance, or the only surveillance that I've ever heard, or surveillance video I've read mentioned. But I thought it went into, unless I'm getting it mixed up with another case, which is entirely possible. But they did mention seeing a figure in her car or around her car. But I'm assuming they checked it out, but I'm assuming that they couldn't figure out who it was. So, let's see. Absolutely. Lots of love to the mods. Absolutely. Chris says, I like and respect all the people who are in this chat for the right reasons. I'm right there with you. Yes. Horrible, horrible, horrible. What case, Chris? Chris says, I can think of a case that needs to be looked at or have a YouTube video on it. Just let me know what it is and I will see what I can do. Most definitely. Okay, so yeah, Patriotism says you did mention they saw a figure around her car. Yeah, it was in one of the articles, maybe the first article. Let's see if I can find it again. But yeah, they did mention because they had the surveillance video from the gas station. I'm just scanning to see if I can find it. So it's not in that one. Try the second one. Whenever I look for something, it never fails. I can never find it again. Or maybe it was in the solvethecase.org information. That might be where it is. Bear with me. One second. Yeah, so they had when they did the investigation, they spent out they revealed that she had run errands, including paying her cable bill, stopping at the gas station. That's where they captured the surveillance footage. It says one of the few leads included a mysterious figure seen in her car in surveillance footage, though the individual has never been identified. So I'm going to assume, since they don't mention any other surveillance footage aside from the one from the gas station, that this is where they saw this mysterious figure actually in the car. So, but they were never able to identify this individual, unfortunately. Turn my camera up. Well, let's see. Gotta find. Yes, love to all the mods. Oh, Miss Farr is at it. Miss Farr gifted one Southern Gal True Crime membership, so we do get to see the moo cow. Hold on, I've got to find it. There she is. Thank you so much, Miss Farr, for gifting the membership. Miss Farr is a wonderful human being. And you guys can let me know who, I can't see it on StreamYard, but you guys can let me know who received it. Yeah, Farr says, for the cow, for patriotism. Thank you so much. Yeah, Miss Farr says, congratulations. Patriotism says, thank you. Did patriotism actually get it? Excellent. So not only did you get to see the cow, you got the membership. Excellent. Farr said, welcome to the paddock, Patriot. Excellent. Love it. Hey, Butterfly Kisses, welcome. Welcome back. Good to see you. Always good to see you. All right, I'm caught up. So I'll mark right there so I can find my place again when I go back to the comments. I know it's probably not going to work, but I'm going to try one more time because it's so much easier to read and control everything on StreamYard from my computer. We will see if it works. Came up fairly fast, so maybe it is working now. We shall see. Got to get all the settings right. Hold on. We'll see if it works. Maybe. Oh, it came up. Okay, it came up. So let me skip my camera back a little bit more. There we go. Hopefully it'll keep working. Let's see. Yeah, patriotism says that they did get it. Congratulations. So see, you got to see the cow and you were the benefit of the membership. The lucky person, or at least I hope you think you're lucky for getting it. All right, so next we have Molly Hogan. And oh, now I got to bring my other tab back up because I closed all my tabs out. All right. Let me get Molly's information. So once again, we will start with the, oh my goodness, everything's moving so slow. We'll start with the solvethecase.org. If it will come up, I might have to turn off StreamYard on my computer because it is obviously, so Chris says the case that I would like to have you look at is the Indiana Dunes unalivings. I will definitely look at that. Thank you, Chris. I will look at it. Okay, so this is Molly Monette Hogan. So the first information is going to be from solvethecase.org. And this is from Paoli, Oklahoma, from June 23rd of 1987. So on June 24th, 1987, an unidentified white female was located approximately 1 mile west of Interstate 35 South, and 1/4 mile west of the I-35 Paoli exit, which is about 50 miles south of Oklahoma City. The COD was ruled a homicide as the victim had been GSW to the head. She was clothed in ankle socks with blue and red stripes, a Camp Beverly Hills brand large blue sweater. It was estimated that the victim likely passed away 3 to 4 weeks prior to being found. Investigators were not able to determine if the location where the body was found was the location that the homicide occurred. Investigative genealogy was conducted, and in October of 2024, so when she was found in 1987, she was not identified until October of 2024, when she was identified as Molly Monette Hogan. She was from Alabama, and it is unknown when or how she came to be in Oklahoma. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation is seeking any information from the public regarding Molly's case. So let me go back and read the number from the slide, make it so to provide, if you do have any information about Molly's case, you can contact Special Agent Matthew Miller of the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation at 404-443-5221. There's also an email, Miller at osbi.ok.gov. You can also call the FBI VICAP at 800-634-4097. All right, so let's see information from Solve the Case. Oh, man, this is hot. So let me see. I believe I was able to find an article of when they identified her, when they were able to identify her. So this article is from November of 2024. News 12's Unsolved Paoli Jane Doe One Step Closer to Justice. So a young woman was GSW'd and her body dumped off of I-35 in Garvin County in 1987. For all these years, no one knew who she was or how she got there. But thanks to DNA science, investigators are one step closer to solving the cold case. Garvin County Sheriff Jim Mullet said the case began when passersby found a woman's body in a creek bed about 1.5 miles west of Paoli. Mullet said that investigators knew right away, or knew that it was a homicide. The medical examiner's report stated that the body, found in June of 1987, had been decomposing for some time. She was found wearing only socks. Trigger warning, she was decapitated, and she had been GSW in the head. But who was she? A few clues were left behind to trace. Mollett said, quote, back then, we just did not have the DNA. We did not have the genealogy. We did not have the resources that we have today. So it was an unsolved case for a long time. The breakthrough in the case came when the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation used forensic genetic genealogy. And you guys know I'm obsessed with genetic genealogy. Their lab tested a DNA sample from the body and then used traditional genealogical testing to identify the body as Molly Hogan. OSBI spokesperson Hunter McKee said forensic genetic genealogy has helped them identify multiple John and Jane Does. McKee said, quote, it has been a tremendous help when you're talking about a case that has spanned over this amount of time from 1987. With a name, investigators did find her family. Mollett said, quote, we're getting pieces together of her life and trying to figure out why and how she came to be in Oklahoma. News 12 was not able to reach Molly's family, but Mollett said that they do live out of state and didn't know why she was in Paoli all those years ago. McKee said, quote, we still have to find out what exactly happened, who Molly was, who she knew, where she was traveling from, and what she was doing down there exactly. Mollett said investigators are piecing together a timeline to figure out who did take her life. Mollett said, quote, we got some things that we were working on with OSBI and some old cold cases that we're putting together, and maybe we can have some answers. And they want your help. Mollett said, quote, now that we know who she is and we have a name, maybe there is someone out there who is seeing this newscast or this video or reading an article or another video from somebody at this time, even in 2026, who can come forward and say, yeah, I did know her. I know why she was here. Mollett asked Garvin County residents to jog their memories, whether it's seeing something strange back then or meeting Molly in passing. Mollett hopes someone will come forward. Then if somebody comes forward, then the department, the investigators can follow any leads. Mollett said, quote, we'll take it and we will run with it. That's how we keep these cases going. I don't like to see any of them put on the shelf. I like to see closure for the family. Absolutely. And it says even a small recollection could provide a big clue. Mollett says even if they think it might be irrelevant, it is a piece that we can put together and try to help. 19-year-old Molly Hogan, finally known and recognized, but the mystery of who took her life lingers on. Sheriff Mollett said that it is all about getting answers for the family. He asked you to take a look at Molly's face. Anything that you remember can help them keep the case going. Once again, OSBI is asking for tips to be sent in to their number, 1-800-522-8017. So it took somebody had to do the math for me. This happened in 1987, right? And she was identified in 2024. So that is a lot of years. I'm not good at doing math in my head. I'm not a math person, but yeah. But thank God that she was finally identified. Absolutely. And I think that was the only article I was able to find on her. Yeah. All right. So let me check your comments before we get into the next one. Once again, congratulations to our friend Patriotism for being the newest member. Thanks to Miss Farr. who graciously, even though she is not feeling well tonight, she's down with a headache, gifted a membership. Let's see. Jen says, I remember Molly's case. Excellent. Hey, Miss Z. There's Miss Z from Child Junkies United. Hello, lady. Good to see you. Did I turn my camera back on? No, goodness gracious. There it is. Hello, Miss Z. I hope you and Doc and Moo the cat are doing well tonight. And Ms. Z, Child Junkies United will have a live stream, as far as I know, unless something comes up tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central, because they do their live streams Thursday nights and Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Central. If you have not checked out Child Junkies United, what have you been doing with your life? Please do check them out. They do excellent work. They do injustice cases. They do MMIP, MMIW, Indigenous person cases. Just do such excellent work. Excellent work. See if anybody else has snuck in. Thank you very much. Mustang, there is the link to Child Junkies United. Go subscribe. Go watch all their past live streams. You will not be disappointed. You will be angry, but you will not be disappointed. And I say you will be angry because of just the nature of the injustices that they cover. Just it makes it so infuriating. So infuriating. Yep, Ms. Z says DNA has really helped to solve these older cases. Absolutely. Well, looky here. We have Mr. Steve. Hello, Mr. Steve from True Crime Web. Another one of our favorite people. And so he, as always, has words of wisdom because he is a professional, unlike me. He is a former law enforcement, former CSI. So he says, stopping by, and first thing, DNA and the 1980s. Oh, the memories of early DNA. Yeah, so he was doing his DNA thing back in the 80s. And also, don't forget, I also watched the magic and introduction of digital cameras as same time period. Yep. Mr. Steve, it was so I think I've heard Mr. Steve say that this DNA thing was really getting really started back when he became a CSI. So we always appreciate Mr. Steve's input. Absolutely. Always glad to see Mr. Steve. We hope that you're doing well, that Mrs. Steve is doing well, that the whole family is doing well, and that you're getting some rest, because I'm sure when the weather warms up during the summertime, he will be back out on the road helping families. He is retired, but he has a nonprofit. He goes out, boots on the ground, to help families free of charge with any missing persons, cold cases, trying to get justice for family members. So Mr. Steve is a wonderful, wonderful person, and we love him. If I've not mentioned it, we love Mr. Steve. Thank you very much. Mustang got the link to True Crime Web. Please do check it out. So 37 years. So Far did the math. 37 years is a long time without your name. Absolutely. Absolutely. Too long. Too long. This, I believe, is Fritzl Garage, watching from Poland. Always good when Fritzl checks in and gets to watch. Thank you so much for being here. Fritzl is a long time supporter of the channel. Before I started even doing live streams, when I was first doing my very first crappy little videos, which I don't know if my videos or live streams have improved a whole lot. But they would always comment on them, just so kind, so gracious. So it is always good to see Fritzl here. Yes. Ms. Z says, Southern Gal True Crime, thank you for your continued support. Absolutely, it is well deserved. She says, your righteous indignation will flare with some of the stories we tell. Absolutely. Absolutely, I'm telling you. And I will do my best. I should be able to make it to the live stream, actually be there when it is live tomorrow night. I've missed the last few just for various reasons, things going on. And but I have been replay crew. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow night to see what is on the plate for tomorrow night. Like Ms. Z said, I'm sure the righteous indignation will flare, as always. But these are very important stories that need to be told, need to be made aware of, or I guess I can't talk, need more awareness brought to them. In a lot of these cases, the bad guys want to keep them in the shadows and keep people silent. And it's just thank God for Z and Doc that bring these stories to light, no matter how hard it is to tell these stories a lot of times. And they just do it in such a wonderful, compassionate, respectful way. And I just cannot say enough about the channel. Just, I can't. They're just a wonderful job. Yep, Jen says there are so many cold cases. Yeah, that's a lot of the reason why I feature mostly cold cases on my channel. Not absolutely not that I don't think that newer, more recent cases are not important. Every case is important, but like I said earlier, cold cases tend to get either forgotten or pushed to the side the older they get, and these victims, the victims' families, deserve to never be forgotten. It's another one of our mottos around here, hashtag never forgotten. None of these victims deserve to be forgotten. They need to have their stories told, and hopefully the right person will either see one of my videos or live streams or somebody else's video or live stream or post and have some information that could help solve a case. Absolutely. So that is why we do this. And why these other wonderful creators, such as Trial Junkies United and Doodle, and the list is not Mr. Steve, True Crime Web, all these wonderful other creators do this, is to get justice and to give voices to the voiceless. Absolutely. Yeah, Chris says, I think there's so many cases and so many different scenarios. Absolutely. Absolutely. Jen says, I'm going to have to look up that one case. This poor woman, that I can't talk. Poor woman was essayed by more than one and left alive, and I can't remember where I've seen it, but I will find it. Yes, definitely find it. Let me know. And we will take a look at it. That's just horrible. Thank you, Mustang. It's too kind. She says your content is all awesome. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, I went back. I don't even know why I did it. I went back either yesterday or the day before. I think it was when I was looking. We were it was Dave, Saturday night on Dave's live stream. Our Alan LaProw. Please check out Dave, Alan LaProw. He was talking about the Forrest, was his name, Warren Forrest. And I was thinking that I'd done a video on him, so I went back and looked, and it was actually one of the first videos that I done. I did it like 2 years ago. I did a video on him. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to discourage anybody from watching my older videos because they do have important information about cases. But yeah, I'm hoping that I've come gotten a little bit better, in the 2 years since I've made that video. But I believe that was the one I went back and found it. Chris says, I am aware of the area that Molly Hogan was found unalived. So yeah, she was the one. Was she the one found under the? No, that was Amber. So she was found on off of Interstate I-35, which is about 50 miles in Paoli, which is about 50 miles south of Oklahoma City. Okay. Yep, I figured. Mr. Steve said he is finalizing the wintertime consulting work, prepping the foundation, and travel schedule for summer 2026. So, do you know about how many cases? I know you can't give details or any cases you're working on. About how many cases are you going to be working on? I know you're going to be busy as usual. Mr. Steve is just, I can't, once again, I can't, Mr. Steve is another one that I can't say enough about all the wonderful, wonderful work that he does. He and his team at the foundation at True Crime. And you can find, I think I have it bookmarked. If not, I can find it. Let me go over to my, it is truecrimeweb.com. I believe. Let me make sure, and I will put the link to it in the chat. If it'll come up. So it has all the information about the foundation. You can make donations through it. So let me copy and paste that into the chat. If it'll come up, it should come up in a minute. So it is truecrimeweb.com. Please do check it out. That is Mr. Steve's website, Mr. and Mrs. Steve's website. Yeah, Missy says, talking to Mr. Steve, good investigating for 2026. Chris says, the case that has me baffled is Amy M., who is 10 years old and unalived. Where's that from? What year? Give me a year and a state, and I will look at that one. That's okay, Mustang. I found it. Yeah, it's truecrimeweb.com. And there it is right there. Okay. So I think I did everything that we had on Molly. So next, get that loading in case it takes a minute. Next we have Eulalia, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Eulalia Chavez. Once again, it's taking its time to load. Come on. Oh, just as it was loading, I closed out the tab. Hold on. Wouldn't be one of my live streams without a dumpster fire or 4 or 5. All right, it's trying to load. There we go. Okay. So this is Eulalia Chavez. And this is from Lebanon, Illinois, from September 5th, 1986. So on September 6th of 1986, the nude body of Eulalia Chavez of Palo Alto, California, was found in a cornfield off of a dirt road near Oak Grove School Road in Lebanon, Illinois. She had been strangled and she had been sexually mutilated. So Chavez had run away from her home in Palo Alto, California on several occasions. Her adoptive mother last saw her in 1975 or 1976, although she received numerous phone calls over the years from individuals claiming to have seen her daughter in different states. On September 6th of 1986, a farmer discovered Chavez's body in a cornfield just outside the village of Summerfield, Illinois. She was naked. She had been strangled with an item of clothing belonging to her. Her offender had cut her pelvic area and attempted to remove her reproductive organs. There was also a lack of defensive wounds on her body. It was determined that Chavez had died some point the day prior, and her body had been placed at the site. So I'm assuming maybe that is not where this horrible things that happened to her occurred. Maybe they occurred somewhere else, and then she was just dumped there. Authorities observed that her offender left behind small Western-style boot prints. A police officer also recalled finding scattered clothes and personal items, including a set of silverware and a salt and pepper shaker. That's just some weird, in my opinion, that's just some weird stuff to find at a crime scene. A set of silverware and the salt and pepper shakers. So similarities have been cited between the cases of Chavez and 30-year-old hitchhiker Wendy Mitchell. However, it is unknown if their homicides are connected. A farmer also discovered Mitchell's naked body in a bean field in Troy, Illinois on July 12, 1990. And this site was just 10 miles from where Eulalia's body was discovered, so not very far at all. So Mitchell had passed away from multiple stab wounds to her neck and torso. She was likely SA'd, and on further examination, her fallopian tubes, uterus, and ovaries were also absent. So it is believed that her offender may have removed her reproductive organs also. I don't know about you guys. Please let me know in chat or in comments if you're watching replay. I don't believe in coincidences, and that is something. So unless you have, two or more people that are running around the same time frame. So Wendy was in 1990. Eulalia was in 86. So that's about 4 years apart. They both were killed in a similar style, and they both had their either reproductive organs or internal organs, which the fallopian tubes, uterus, and ovaries are obviously reproductive organs. Both removed. I just don't believe in coincidences. It said there was no evidence of defensive wounds also on Wendy's body, just like Eulalia. She did not have any defensive wounds. So to me, these are just, in my opinion, just a little bit too similar to be coincidence. I could be completely wrong. Once again, I'm not a professional. This is just my opinion. But yeah, just too similar for my liking. So the St. Clair County Sheriff's Department is the one in charge of or handling this case. So they can be reached at 618-277-3505. You can also email richard.watson@co.stclair.il.us. So how many of you guys think that these possibly could be related? I mean, just because that is a very bizarre, or a very unusual, at least in cases, and I've looked at a lot of cases of women's reproductive organs being removed. And just 10 mile, it's just found just 10 mile. The crime scenes were just 10 miles apart, which is not far at all. To me, something is afoot at the Circle K in this one. I think I was able to find an article on Eulalia's case. It's loading. So this is from NBC News. And it is from, actually it's recent. It's from February 1st of this year, 2026. It says 1986 homicide of Illinois Summerfield Jane Doe, ID'd in 2008 as Eulalia Chavez, still unsolved. So on the morning of September 6, 1986, a farmer driving a combine through his cornfield in Summerfield, Illinois, made a startling discovery. It was the body of a young woman. Authorities were unable to identify her, and for 22 years, she would be known only as Summerfield Jane Doe. Over the last 40 years, the case has been passed down from investigator to investigator in the St. Clair County Sheriff's Department. In 2022, it landed on the desk of Senior Detective Ben Weiss. Detective Weiss told Dateline, quote, "I have known about this case for over 20 years. This is a case that's just important to the whole community," end quote. According to Weiss, St. Clair County suffered a string of brutal homicides in the late 80s, but this one was particularly gruesome. Summerfield Jane Doe passed away by strangulation. She was found naked and bound with her genitalia mutilated. Her belongings were strewn around her. It said that she did have some jewelry on, but no ID. Authorities were unable to identify the woman, who they believed to be 18 to 25 years old. The case grew cold, and Weiss said there's not a lot of doors to knock on out there. So apparently it's a very remote rural area. So in 2007, the Sheriff's Department re-examined the case and exhumed Summerfield Jane Doe's body. Crime scene technician Matt Davis noticed something. When the victim's fingerprints were originally run, the search had been limited to ages 18 to 25. So Davis ran the prints again, this time with a broader age range. And in January of 2008, they got a match. Summerfield Jane Doe was positively identified as 27-year-old Eulalia Chavez. So according to Detective Weiss, Eulalia was born in Costa Rica. When she was 2 years old, she was adopted by a family in Palo Alto, California, after her parents passed away. Weiss says that he learned Eulalia had run away several times in her youth, but had never been reported missing. At 19, she gave birth to a baby girl, whom she later gave up for adoption. Little is known about the last decade of Eulalia's life or how she wound up in Illinois. In the early 2000s, a young woman named Katie got a message. Katie told Dateline, quote, "I had put my information on an adoption forum. It was a woman that had known my mother. The woman gave Katie a name, Eulalia Chavez, and she asked Katie a question: how much do you already know?" She then told Katie to look up Summerfield Jane Doe. Katie said, quote, "I just remember being really sad, of course, because I thought what a horrible thing to happen to this person," end quote. So from there, Katie was able to get in touch with Eulalia's sister. Quote, "She said if she had to describe my mom in one word, it would be headstrong." So Katie is Eulalia's daughter. So Katie learned that Eulalia was a jewelry maker. She was a lover of rock and roll music and a big sister for the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, which is America's largest youth mentoring network. She left home and began hitchhiking in her late teens. Katie doesn't know the circumstances surrounding her birth or what her birth parents' relationship was when her mother found out that she was pregnant. She says, quote, "I do think it was nice that she made the choice to keep me. I feel like she was hopeful and thinking, things can get better." And it was also nice too, though, that when she realized, okay, I can't take care of this child, that she did give me up for adoption because I did have a wonderful life with my adopted family, end quote. So while Katie was learning more about her mom, the case hit another standstill. Eventually, according to Detective Weiss, in the mid-2010s, the detective who worked on Eulalia's case before him began looking into the possibility that suspected serial offender Larry Hall had something to do with Eulalia's murder. So Larry Hall, I don't think I'm not familiar with him. So Hall had been convicted of kidnapping 15-year-old Jessica Roach from Georgetown, Illinois in September of 1993. Her body was found across state lines in an Indiana cornfield. Once again, we got the cornfield. Nearly 2 months later, Hall was sentenced to life in prison. While incarcerated, Hall confessed to dozens of known homicides, but he later recanted all of them. And Detective Weiss told Dateline that Hall once even included Eulalia's name on a list of women that he claimed that he had taken the lives of. So in 2016, the detective who worked Eulalia's case before Weiss did take a buccal swab from Hall. He ran it against the DNA evidence that they had, but the results were inconclusive. He also interviewed Hall, and according to Weiss, when he was shown photos of Eulalia, Hall replied, "Oh, that woman's too old for me." Too old. So he must like them young, because Eulalia was, how old was he? Was she in her? She was in her 20s. Let me go back. I think she was in her 20s. 27. She was 27. All right, let me get back into where I know where I was at. So when Weiss took over the case in 2022, he sent the evidence to a lab again and got a bit more information from the DNA data. Using a new laser technology, they were able to get a partial fingerprint from the duct tape Eulalia was bound with, which had not been picked up by dusting. Weiss said, quote, "One of the first things I did was have that fingerprint compared to Larry Hall's, and that is not his fingerprint." So the St. Clair County Sheriff's Department does not consider Hall to be a suspect in Eulalia's case. Currently, Weiss is working with the FBI to identify people who committed similar crimes to compare their prints to the partial print found on the duct tape. He is also hopeful that publicity could lead to a break in the case. He says, quote, "Maybe somebody out there will have talked to her, received a postcard or a picture, or know who she was last with." Katie says that she was happy to see Weiss continue working on her mother's case. Katie said, quote, "It would be nice to have whoever it was brought to justice if they're still out there. And I also kind of thought whether it gets solved or not, my mother's life was short and it was hard, but I think it would be nice to have some memory of her as somebody besides just someone who was the victim of a homicide," end quote. So once again, anyone with information about Eulalia Chavez should contact Detective Ben Weiss at the St. Clair County Sheriff's Department at 618-825-5309, or you can email Benjamin-Weiss at co.stclair.il.us, or you can reach out to the FBI VICAP at 800-634-4097. You can also email vicap@fbi.gov. So, like I said, this article is from 2026, so it's good to know that they are still working on it. Right, so I think that is the only article, but that was I was because usually on these cold cases you don't find sometimes any articles. Sometimes you find some older articles, but I was very pleasantly surprised to find an actual article from this year on Eulalia's case. All right, let me get caught up in your comments once again, and we will move on. Okay, so Mr. Steve says, hopefully I will meet with Ellie in a few weeks regarding new evidence on a recent misclassified case. I don't know when family will disclose the evidence. How does a case get misclassified? Well, I guess maybe it was classified as maybe an accident or self-harm instead of like a homicide or something like that, something of that nature. Jen says they say Indiana still has over 7,200 cold cases. That is a lot. Too many. One is too many. Ms. Z says Larry Hall is a suspected serial offender deleted in that area. So is he deceased? Let me look him up right quick. Right quick. I want to know more about this Larry Hall. Oh, he has a Wikipedia page. Imagine that. So Larry Dwayne Hall is an American kidnapper, essayist, convicted unaliver, and suspected serial offender. Apparently, he is an aficionado of the American Revolution and the Civil War. He traveled around the Midwest for historical reenactments and is believed to have abducted, essayed, tortured, and taken the lives of dozens of girls and women. So yeah, I would be looking at, I'm sure they did at any unsolved homicides in the Midwest in that area. So attending these historical reenactments, because there's always a lot of people at those things. And, excuse me, it would be very easy to find victims. So Hall came to police attention after the discovery of a 15-year-old's remains in November of 1993. He was convicted of her kidnapping. He later confessed to that and an additional homicide, though he recanted his confessions of both crimes. Since his arrest, he has confessed to more than 35 homicides, but then he went back and recanted all of them. However, he has also confessed to 2 homicides where he was ruled out as a suspect or gave false location for buried bodies. So I'm wondering if one of those is Eulalia's case, because I said that he did, and something that he wrote down, he did mention Eulalia, but then his fingerprint did not match the partial print that was found on the duct tape. And nevertheless, some authorities believe he could be responsible for the deaths and disappearances of between 40 and 50 young women, which would place him among the most prolific serial offenders in American history. Wow. So the FBI believes that Hall began his crimes in the early 1980s. Over the subsequent decade, numerous female corpses, some young and unidentified, were discovered and later attributed to Hall due to their bodies being strangled and sexually mutilated. So we had that in the case of Eulalia, and the case of Wendy, was that her name? Wendy Mitchell. Hall once again frequented historical reenactment sites around the U.S. and would select victims from nearby towns and cities. He abducted his victims, who are primarily but not exclusively young white girls and adult women, and would often but not always essay and torture them before then stabbing or strangling them to death. It said he usually dismembered their bodies post-mortem and engaged in certain acts with their corpses. Oh, this is a sick individual. Yeah, so we may have to do a live stream about Mr. Hall here. Bad dude, to say the least. Wow. It's just so terrifying how many of these kind of monsters that there are out there. All right, let me get back into your comments quickly, and then we will move to the next one. Yeah. Jen said, what the heck? How sick? Why would they take her female parts? Because they're sick. I don't know. It's just, yeah, but even if it wasn't Hall, because I guess they basically ruled him out of Eulalia's case because his fingerprint didn't match. But now, in my opinion, just my opinion, my unprofessional opinion, Eulalia's case, and I believe her name was Wendy Mitchell, that case, 10 miles apart. They were both found in fields. They were both had basically killed, kind of the same way. Both had their some of their internal organs, reproductive organs removed. I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe in coincidences. Yeah, Mustang says, so sad, praying that they are all solved. Absolutely. Jen says, selling female organs? Possibly. Possibly selling, possibly, even though it's horrible to think about, souvenirs. I don't know. Some serial offenders keep souvenirs. But possible. Miss Paula's getting her last bowl of Cheerios. Now I want some Cheerios. Oh, and I had supper. We had spaghetti and meatballs for supper. Yeah, Jen says yummy cereal. Yeah, and Cheerios are my favorites. Okay, so Chris, so this was the Dune Unalivings, Ohio, 10/27/1989. Let me write. Oh, I don't know if hold on. Turn my camera off. If you hear me rummaging around, I'm trying to find my pen and something to write that down so I will not forget. And of course, I can't reach. Man. Hold on. Let me, can I just search Dune Unalivings? And where was it? Ohio. Hold on. Give me 1 second. Dune Homicides, Ohio. Hold on. I got to put in a date. 1989. Okay. 1989. Well, how many unalivings were there? Chris, message when you get time, message me on Messenger with a little bit more information, maybe some names of some of the victims. And I will look at it. Mustang says she's heard about Larry Hall. Yeah, Miss Z says he was a piece of work. Yeah, we might have to do a live stream about him. Chris says he's familiar with Hall and his cases that he's possibly tied to. Yeah, Ms. Z says selling organs, not sure that was what it was about, more just a sadistic deleter. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Very, very sadistic. Oh, so you did a show about Wendy? Ms. Z says we did a show on Madison County, Illinois. Body ID is Winona Nadine Wendy Mitchell or Michelle Michel, identified in July 2025 after being a Jane Doe found stabbed in a Troy Illinois field in 1990. She was last seen with a trucker. I didn't even think about truckers. That's another thing that Dave Allen the Prowl is also interested in. Is not that all truck drivers are serial offenders, but there are serial offenders that are truck drivers, and I've always said it's the perfect cover, the perfect alibi. If they're ever questioned, well, you were in this place at this time where this person was found deceased. Oh, I was making a delivery, and they can also, take someone and unalive them in one state and then dump their body in another state. And once you cross state lines, that just makes it harder for LE in both states to put two and two together, basically. So that is very interesting. Yep, Jen says that is completely sadistic. I agree. Because Chris says Hall was into reenactments. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, you're talking about the he was the Revolutionary War and the Civil War reenactments. Ms. Z says for some serial offenders, like being truck drivers, I think it's due to it being a solitary job. I agree. Yeah, Jen says as for the victims, exactly, they all have a name and they were someone. Absolutely. Z says they have a list of suspected women and girls that they are thinking could have something to do with Larry Hall. Yeah, and the Wikipedia, it gave a list of his suspected victims. That's why I said we're gonna do sometime in the near future. We will do a live stream about Mr. Hall, and more importantly, his suspected victims, because they are the most important thing. The victims obviously are the most important thing in a crime. Hey, Miss Peggy. Good to see you, my friend. She said, hello. Hey, everyone. Been lurking while I cooked and ate dinner. Excellent. Good to see you, Miss Peggy. Oh, my goodness. Miss Z says Hall traveled by van to his events. He started digging graves with his father at age 12. Like in a cemetery graves, or like digging graves for victims. That is very scary. Yep. OMG, that sums it up. Jen said, is he still alive? Let me look and see. Let me go back. Let me go back to Wikipedia. As far as I know, he's still alive. Let me go down to the bottom. It usually tells. So in 1996, the FBI reached out to a Chicago businessman named James Keene, who was serving a 10-year prison sentence on a substance conspiracy charge. After having learned of Keene's affability and charisma and worrying that Hall could win his appeal against his conviction for the Roach kidnapping, the Bureau offered to totally commute and erase Keene's sentence if he agreed to be transferred to the same maximum security prison as Hall to befriend him and obtain the location of the bodies of his victims. So Keene agreed to the proposition, and Hall eventually confessed to him to some crimes. Hall showed Keene a map that he was working on of the American Midwest with red dots and names over it representing his victims. In response, Keene yelled at Hall, calling him one of the most despicable forms of human life on this planet. I have to agree. Subsequently, unable to reach his government contacts or prove his identity, Keene was placed in solitary confinement for 2 weeks before being released. The map was never recovered by authorities. Hall's eventual appeal was denied, and Keene was released from his sentence. Hall is serving life without the possibility of parole in the federal correctional complex in North Carolina. So I'm assuming he's still alive and still in jail. Thank God. So yeah, he is still alive, but he is in prison. Life without the possibility of parole. Yep, Chris said he's still alive. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and watch that. Mazie says it was one of our earlier shows. I will go back and find it, absolutely, and watch it. So somebody needs to take care of what? Jen says someone needs to take care of that. Okay, so they dug up in the cemetery. He grew up creepy, most definitely. So Chris said that talking to Jen, Hall is tied to a case from their area. Interesting and horrifying. All right. All right, so that was the Eulalia. So next we have, this is so sad, a younger person, Basil Abdul Faruq. Let me get his information. So this actually involves Basil and his brother. So we have 2. So this is from Richmond, Virginia, from April of 1990. So Basil and his younger brother Jamal both mysteriously disappeared from their mother's front yard in Richmond, Virginia, during the spring of 1990. So 3 days later, Basil's body was found in the landfill miles away from where they vanished. He had been the victim of a homicide. His brother Jamal, his body has not been found, but he is believed to be deceased. But a search of the landfill failed to produce his body. No arrests have ever been made in this case, which remains unsolved. So Basil and his brother were last seen in Richmond on April 16th, 1990. Their stepmother had dropped them off at their mother's home at the Palms Apartments located at 1704 Clarkson Road after a day of visiting Bird Park with their father. So the 2 boys went outside to play in the front yard at around 2:35 p.m. Their mother worked a night shift at her job the day before, so she went inside to take a nap. And when she woke up from her nap, she looked for the 2 boys, but she was unable to find them. So police searched the apartment complex and nearby wooded areas extensively. Unfortunately, they found no trace of either of the brothers. Police do believe that the 2 boys were abducted by someone while they were playing outside on the afternoon of their disappearance. No one ever saw them again afterwards. Both boys were students at ESH Elementary School at the time. So on April 19th of 1990, a landfill employee did find Basil's body in the Shoesmith Brothers Inc. landfill in Chesterfield County, Virginia at around 1:20 p.m. An autopsy indicated that he was killed by 2 stab wounds to the back, and his skull was fractured post-mortem, and he had been bound and gagged. And did I say how old they were? I don't know if it says how old they were. I got an article. It should tell how old they were. So Okay, so investigators spent 4 days searching the landfill for any trace of Jamal, but he was not found. But nonetheless, police suspect that he was also the victim of a homicide with his older brother shortly after their abductions. The parents and stepmother of both boys were investigated for potential involvement in the case. A search warrant was served on their father's home located in the 3900 block of Alma Avenue in Henrico County, Virginia, but nothing was found, and the mother and father were ruled out as suspects in the case. In 1991, police stated that they believe that they knew who abducted and killed both of the boys, but declined to publicly identify the suspect. But sources stated that it was someone who knew both of the brothers. Sadly, Jamal's disappearance and Basil's homicide remain unsolved. So I wonder why. I understand. They said they believe they knew who abducted and took the lives of the boys, but declined to name them publicly. What is it they say? It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. So if they would come out without any definitive, absolute evidence, if they come out and name them publicly, they could be, I'm assuming they could be sued for slander or defamation or whatever, get in, some kind of trouble. So I'm assuming that's why they did not publicly identify this suspect. Just horrible, horrible case. So the Richmond County Sheriff's Office, you can reach them if you have any information at 804-646-0140. You can also email antoinette.irving@richmondgov.com. I believe I was able to find an article. So this article is from April of 2010. Excuse me. 20 years later, abduction case stirs emotions. So 20 years ago today, and remember it's longer now, 2 brothers went missing from a South Richmond neighborhood. One was found deceased days later. The other is still missing. Now a Richmond detective is leading a renewed effort to find the offender and bring the missing boys home. In family photos, Jamal and Basil Abdul Faruq seem inseparable. In one, the brothers stand side by side, their arms around each other. April 16th, 1990, they were playing together near their mother's home on Clarkson Road. They never returned. Their parents and neighbors launched a frantic search, and 3 days later, Basil's body was found in a Chesterfield landfill. A Richmond homicide detective, James Baines, was reminded of the case when he picked up a newspaper 2 years ago and saw the boys' pictures. And Baines says, quote, "I have 2 sons myself, so I strongly related to it." He began updating the case file and reaching out to Jamal and Basil's family. He soon realized that the boys' parents had not given up hope of finding Jamal. He said, quote, "When you ask both of them, they're very passionate that they believe Jamal is still alive, and that transfers to me. I think he is still alive too," end quote. For Detective Baines, the mission is now twofold: to bring Jamal home and find the person who took Basil's life and left him in a landfill. Baines says, quote, "There's a monster out there who took 2 boys and killed one of them and just threw him away in the trash." So I wonder, obviously we always want, the best possible outcome, that yes, Jamal is out there alive somewhere. I don't know. I don't know. But what would be the reasoning unless he took both of them? He just wanted one of them maybe to do, God knows, unspeakable things. So he took the life of one of them and of Basil, and then took Jamal and did possibly did whatever, and then most likely, in my opinion, would have taken his life shortly after. That's usually, statistically, that's usually what happens. That'd be the only reason I would think that he would immediately take the life of one and then take the other one. Or advances in DNA technology are allowing police to take a new look at the case. Evidence found near Basil's body is now being tested at the Virginia State Lab. Baines hopes new evidence, along with increased publicity, will lead to answers. He says, quote, I think people who were living in Richmond at the time knew about this case and might have some information that could help us. Although it's been 20 years, the fight continues to find one brother and find justice for the other. I don't know. Do you guys still think that Jamal could still be alive, or may have been kept alive longer than Basil? Like I said, to possibly, whoever the offender was, do horrible things and then take his life. To me, just in my opinion, that would be the more likely scenario. Once again, just my opinion. I'm not a professional, but statistically, that's usually what happens. So I think that is all that I had on that one article. Yep, going back to Mr. Hall, Jen said, life with no parole, that is exactly where he needs to be. I agree, absolutely. Yeah, Z says, kids are always tough. I know. The little ones get me. Mustang says, unfortunately, I don't believe so. We're talking about Jamal still being alive. Yeah, Ms. Z says, sadly, very unlikely, which breaks my heart. Absolutely. Yeah, so just my opinion, once again, possibilities is, he took both of them. He decided, I don't know, maybe he decided which one he wanted to do something with. So he took the life of Basil, took Jamal, either took him somewhere else, did whatever, and then took his life and dumped him somewhere else, or he took both of their lives at the same time, left them both in the landfill, and they just haven't found Jamal's body. But you would think that he would have left them together in the same, in the same area in the landfill. Now, I mean, who knows, with offenders like this, they're, it is possible that he put, left Basil in one part of the landfill and then took Jamal to a completely different part of the landfill, and they just didn't find his body. Jen says, I don't think so, that Jamal is still alive. Yeah, unfortunately. I said, we always try to keep positive thoughts and hope for the best, but in cases like these, it's kind of hard to keep that hope. All right, so next we have Lily Ann Prendergast. Let me get her information. And I think she was one that was not identified until many years after she disappeared, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. Get her information up. So this is from Sacramento, California, from October of 1981. So Lily Ann Prendergast, I want to say Prendergast. She was originally from Ohio. She was last seen leaving her parents' home in Dallas, Texas in late 1980. So her partial skeletal remains were discovered on the side of Interstate 5, just south of Freeport Boulevard on October 27, 1981. But she remained unidentified for almost 40 years. So this is the second one we've talked about tonight. that went unidentified for 40 years. All right, so on October 27th, 1981, skeletal remains of a white female adult were discovered on the side of Interstate 5 in Sacramento County, California. Authorities determined the victim had been killed 1 to 5 months prior to being discovered. However, she remained unidentified once again for almost 40 years. So in February of 2020, the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office was notified of a DNA match to familial reference samples identifying this subject as Lily Ann Prendergast, originally from Ohio. So according to family, Lily was last seen leaving her parents' home in Dallas after an argument sometime in late 1980. After that, she was never seen or heard from again until the remains were found and then eventually identified 40 years later. It says that she does have connections and or family in Florida, Georgia, Ohio, and Texas, and she was known to hitchhike. So the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office is in charge of this case. So you can contact, if you have any information, you can contact them at 916-874-7146. You can also email sheriff@sacsheriff.com. And let me find her article. So this may be when they identified her. So this is from People magazine. It is from October 2020. Remains found on California Freeway in 1981, now identified as missing Dallas woman. Police have identified skeletal remains found on the shoulder of a California highway nearly 40 years ago. The remains, which were discovered on October 27th, 1981, were identified through DNA technology as Lily Ann Prendergast. Lily's brother, William, told KTXL, quote, "It's horrible. I could not figure out why I could not find her. She used to call me on my birthday all the time, and then that just stopped," end quote. So police said that Prendergast, 26, was last seen leaving her family's home after an argument in Dallas, Texas in late 1980. She was known to hitchhike, and she had friends and family members in Ohio, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. So about 1 year after she disappeared, remains of a woman were found on the shoulder of Interstate 5, just south of the Freeport Boulevard overpass in Sacramento. Police said the woman, who had long brown hair, was between the ages of 25 and 35 and approximately 5 foot 5 inches tall. She had a tattoo of a small red flower with 2 green leaves and stem on her right upper buttock. And police said that she had been killed 1 to 5 months before she was found. The Sacramento County Sheriff's Office ruled the unknown woman's death a homicide. Sacramento County Sheriff's Deputy Paige Keeland said, quote, "Is a case that has kept me up at night. You know, I wake up thinking about it sometimes," end quote. So over the next 4 decades, police said that they tried to identify the victim through facial reconstruction and sketches, as well as by entering the case into NamUs and submitting her DNA into the state and national missing persons DNA database. She remained unidentified until 2019, when William Prendergast, her brother, gave a sample of his DNA to the FBI. So the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office was notified of a match in February of 2020. William Prendergast said, "Who and why? Why would they do such a thing?" That is always the question. And unfortunately, we usually never find out the why. So once again, if anyone has information regarding Lily's disappearance or homicide, contact the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office at 916-874-TIPS, which is 8477, or you can visit www.sacsheriff.com to submit a tip. And if it will let me, I will put that. So that's taking me to a Facebook page. Hold on. Why did that take me to a Facebook page? It was supposed to be. Hold on. Nope, that took me to a Facebook page. Anyway, just horrible, horrible, horrible. All right, let me get caught up in your comments. Oh, I lost StreamYard on my. I lost it on my computer again. So let me. Let me see if I can get back in. 1 minute. It was doing so well, as usual. All right, I got it back. Let's see. So going back to did it go back? Might have to do it on the computer or on my phone. Going back to Basil's case. Mr. Steve said the best case would be if he was in diapers and possibly taken for that purpose. Sadly, not the case with Jamal, as he was older. Yeah, I still couldn't find how old they exactly how old they were. Maybe hold on. I think they do have a Charlie Project. Jamal Abdul, if I can spell. Because I think I did find, okay, so Jamal did have or does have so Jamal was 7. Disappeared April 16, 1990, Richmond, Virginia, non-family abduction. Last known wearing a black Batman t-shirt, blue jeans, a gray and red fleece baseball jacket, and white sneakers. Basil was 8. So Jamal was 7, Basil was 8. So there was just a year apart. So sad. But I mean, yeah, Ms. Z says, agree, he is old enough to remember his past life, so it is harder to keep them. Absolutely. Hello, Nicole Watt, Sweet Southern. Good to see you, ma'am. Welcome, welcome. I'm glad to see you here. All right, so did we finish up with Lily? No, I think I had a no, I did finish up with Lily. I think. Okay, so next we have actually another yeah, Nicole says, I finally made a live stream. Yes, we are glad that you made a live stream. Absolutely. All right, do I have, let me see if it, oh, wait, I went too far. Oh my goodness, a punch a button. Oh, so this is Tina Clouse. So actually this is I hate to say it this way, I'm not saying it to be funny, a 2-for-1, because actually Tina and her husband. But first, I will give you the information, Tina's information from Solve the Case, and then there's actually a Wikipedia page for this that has all the information in one place. So this is from Houston, Texas, in October 1980. 80 or 81. So in 1981, the remains of a young couple, I can turn my camera back on, were found in a woodland area on the outskirts of Houston. after a dog emerged with a partially decomposed human arm. So the victims remained unidentified until 2021, when a team of genetic genealogists named them as Harold Dean Clouse and his wife Tina, who had moved to Texas from Florida for work. Harold Dean Clouse Jr. and Tina Lynn Clouse, formerly known as the Harris County Does, were a pair of formerly unidentified homicide victims found outside of Houston in January of 1981 after moving in the summer of 1980 with their infant daughter, Holly Marie, from Volusia County, Florida to Lewisville, Texas. So the Clouses stopped contacting their families in October of 1980, and their remains were found in a wooded area north of Houston on January 12, 1981. The bodies were found within feet of each other, both significantly decomposed, with a post-mortem interval of approximately 2 months. Dean had been bound and beaten to death, and Tina was strangled. And Holly Marie, the baby's remains, were not found with or near the parents' remains. So the bodies of Dean and Tina, once again, were found in the woods on a few weeks earlier. So before they were found, a few weeks earlier, their daughter Holly was left at a church in Yuma, Arizona. So known as the Harris County Does for more than 40 years, they were finally identified. So before their remains were found, their daughter Holly was left in a church in Yuma, Arizona, and they were found in Houston, Texas. So that's the basic information. So I think I had, so anyone with information about the homicides of Tina and Dean Clouse can contact the Texas Attorney General's Cold Case and Missing Persons Unit at babyhollytips@oag.texas.gov. So this is a very bizarre case. So let me go to the Wikipedia page, because it does have a lot of information. Let me get a drink before I start reading again. I'm losing all my stuff here. So Harold Dean Clouse Jr. and Tina Lynn Clouse, formerly known as the Harris County Does, were a pair of formerly unidentified homicide victims found outside of Houston in January of 1981. Once again, after moving in the summer of 1980 with their infant daughter, Holly Marie, from Volusia County, Florida to Lewisville, Texas, the Clouses stopped contacting their families in October of 1980. Their remains were found in a wooded area north of Houston on January 12, 1981. The bodies were found within feet of each other, both significantly okay, we went over all that. So after the two bodies were not identified and the case grew cold, they were buried in anonymous graves where they remained unidentified for 41 years. So this is the third one that's been over 40 years or over. So in 2011, the Clouses bodies were exhumed for genetic testing. In 2021, forensic genealogists positively identified the Harris County Does as Dean and Tina Clouse. However, Holly Marie's whereabouts remained unaccounted for. And then, before, like I said, before their remains were found, she was left when she was a baby, she was left in some kind of somewhere in Yuma, Arizona at a church. But in 2022, Holly was located alive in Oklahoma with no memory of the traumatic events of her infancy. So Holly is alive still, or is that 2022? In Oklahoma City. She was located in Oklahoma City. No memory of the events, which is a blessing in my opinion. So a little bit of background on the Clouses. They were both living with their families in New Smyrna Beach, Florida when they met in 1978. Tina was 15. Dean was 19. Dean's sister was already dating Tina's brother, who also later married. Dean and Tina had what they described by those around them as a whirlwind romance, and they married a short time later at the Volusia County Courthouse on June 25th, 1979. Holly was born on January 24th of 1980. Both were described as devoted parents by those around them. Before their move to Texas, the young family lived with Tina's sister, Sherry Lynn. So in the summer of 1980, they moved with baby Holly to the suburb of Lewisville, Texas, in the Dallas metro area. In the early 1980s, the Dallas-Fort Worth area was rapidly developing, creating a construction boom. Dean was an adept cabinet maker and moved his family to Texas in hopes of finding a good job in the trade. So Dean found work with D.R. Horton Home Builders, and the young family lived with Dean's cousin to save for their own home. Holly was 1 year old at the time of the move, and although work at the time was not stable, no one who knew them reported any tensions between them. So Dean and Tina fell out of contact with their families around late October of 1980, only a few months after their relocation to Texas. It is now believed that their homicides occurred between October 1980 and several weeks before. Their bodies were found on January 12th of 1981. They were last seen alive in Lewisville, Texas. It is still unknown how they came to be where they were found. They said it's in undeveloped, swampy woodlands north of Houston, 250 miles from the last confirmed address. So somebody took them 250 miles from where they lived. So after several months have passed without contact from them, in 1981, Dean's mother, Donna Casasanta, reported them missing. However, there was little effort put into the investigation by the police, who strongly believed that the young family had deliberately cut off contact, citing the mysterious return of their car to Florida by members of an unidentified nomadic religious group. So now we have this religious cult-like group coming into the picture. But still, I don't see why they didn't find that suspicious. Just in my opinion, if they disappeared and the baby disappeared, and then their car was mysteriously returned by this nomadic religious group, I would be asking some questions. So I don't know. So their families made grassroots efforts to locate the missing pair, but none led to concrete developments. One such effort taken by the Lynn family was to report the Clouses as missing to the Salvation Army, who sometimes keep track of disappearances. I didn't realize that. But nothing on the Clouses from the Salvation Army's database entered federal databases of missing people. So the bodies discovered. The then unidentified bodies of the Clouses were found on January 12, 1981 in northern Harris County, Texas, in a boggy wooded area just north of the Houston city limits. A civilian's dog, let to wander into the woods, returned to its owner with trigger warning with a decomposing human arm. Search parties prompted by the dog's discovery subsequently found two heavily decomposed bodies near Wallaceville Road. The bodies were found within a few feet of each other and assumed to have been killed at approximately the same time, leading investigators to believe the two bodies were a double homicide. Both had been deceased for anywhere between a week to 2 months. Heavily decayed, with the male body already having been partially skeletonized. However, their faces were still recognizable enough for a reconstruction to be drawn of each. Despite significant decomp, it was determined that both were victims of homicide. The female had been strangled. The male had been bound and gagged before being beaten to death. It is believed that the female victim had been attacked first, and the male victim attacked for attempting to defend her. So I don't know, usually in these kind of cases, if you have a male and a female victim, usually the offender will take out the male first because he was most, usually the stronger one. So they'd usually take the male out first and then take the female out. But sometimes, offenders are not known to be very smart sometimes. So it was unclear if they had been killed, where they were found, or if they'd been taken there afterwards. Also recovered at the scene was a bloody towel and a pair of gym shorts. So did the gym shorts belong to Dean or not? So further investigation turned up very, very few leads beyond what was gathered from the scene. Initial age estimates placed them as teenagers or young adults. Initial theories speculated that the female victim was attacked first and that the male victim had been killed while defending her. Harris County forensic artist Mary Mize drew the initial facial reconstructions of both victims, but the reconstructions failed to generate any leads. Now known to be because the Clouses had not yet built roots in Texas at the time of their deaths. As yet unidentified, the Does were buried in Harris County Cemetery. Even after the victims were properly identified, no arrests have ever been made for the homicides. So the bodies were exhumed in July 2011 to extract DNA, originally to find out if they were related. The funding for exhumation was acquired when Harris County received a grant from the National Institute of Justice to exhume several unidentified homicide victims, including the Clouses, to extract their DNA and enter it into databases. Jennifer Love, Forensic Anthropology Director of the Identification Unit in the Harris County Medical Examiner's Office, was put in charge of the exhumation. Funding for continued genealogical research into the Harris County Does was then secured from the true crime podcast company AudioChuck. So the case of identifying the Does was given to California-based genetic genealogy organization Identifinders International in late 2020. Using GEDmatch as the genetic database, they searched. Forensic genealogists Misty Gillis and Allison Peacock were tasked with identifying them. Gillis focused on tracing the man's genetics. Peacock focused on tracing the female. The male's DNA generated multiple distant matches in Kentucky, which led Gillis to a Kentucky family with the surname Clouse, who had relocated to Florida. So Gillis continued to follow the Clouse family's genealogy until she found an extremely close match with the male. Peacock, acting as representative for both her and Gillis, called Debbie Brooks, who was Dean's sister, and asked if there was a member of her family who had disappeared 40 years or more ago. Brooks then provided Peacock and Gillis with information about Dean, leading to Dean Clouse Jr. being identified within 10 days of Peacock and Gillis beginning his case. Tina Clouse was then identified shortly after, leading to both of the Harris County Does being identified within several weeks of their cases being reopened. So Dean and Tina were publicly identified by the Texas Attorney General's Cold Case Unit on January 12, 2021, on the 40th anniversary of the discovery of their remains. So until then, Donna Casasanta had reportedly been hopeful that her son was still alive. Following the identifications, Peacock continued to work on the case as a Clouse family's public relations and advocate. So families of both Tina and Dean traveled to Houston to see the place where the bodies were found and their grave sites. And according to Les Lynn, who is Tina's brother, both families agreed to have the couple buried together. So after Dean and Tina's bodies were identified, the investigation's primary focus turned to finding their missing daughter. No baby's body was discovered with or near the couple's remains, and no baby doe cases that fit Holly Marie's circumstances had ever surfaced. It is reported that when Peacock delivered news of the findings to the Clouse family, Debbie Brooks asked if the investigators had found the baby, to which Peacock responded, what baby? Several theories about Holly Marie's whereabouts were put forward, including theories that her small body had been carried away by scavenging animals or that investigators missed her at the scene. Another increasingly popular theory was that the baby had been kidnapped by the offenders, which became the general consensus after Holly Marie was recovered alive. It is now known that Holly Marie was left at a church in Arizona shortly after her parents' homicides, and that she was left by two white-robed and barefoot women claiming to be a part of a nomadic religious group. So Allison Peacock and her organization, FHD Forensic, along with the Clouse and Lynn families, continued to search for Holly Marie. Peacock launched the Hope for Holly DNA project as part of the efforts. Information on Holly's case was released to the public, including that her last known whereabouts was Louisville, Texas. An age progression image made by NCMEC was also made to be distributed to the press, and several family members submitted DNA samples to genealogy websites such as Ancestry.com in hopes of matching with Holly Marie. Several women from across the country wrote to Peacock that they might be Holly, and Peacock tested and ruled out several women who fit the circumstances but were hesitant to work with law enforcement. So the recovery of Holly Marie. So Holly Marie was found alive in Oklahoma at age 42 on June 7th, 2022, which was coincidentally Dean, her father's birthday. So while the search for Holly was ongoing, it was hypothesized that if she were to be alive, she would not be aware of her identity or her past, which ended up being correct. While several different agencies were involved in the investigation into Holly Marie's disappearance, confusion occurred over whether her name was spelled as Holly, Hollie, or Hollly. So when investigators asked to see her birth certificate, they found that it had been sealed due to the adoption. While few details of Holly Marie's life have been released out of respect for her privacy, it has been reported that she has led a satisfactory life with a 20-year marriage, 5 children, and 2 young grandchildren. Details of her childhood are also being kept confidential due to the investigation into her parents' deaths being an active case, but it has been stated that her adoptive family was never considered suspects in her case. The church that took Holly in had adopted her to a family, and both the church and the family were unaware of how Holly had come to be in the possession of the church and this nomadic religious group. Holly Marie met with her biological family over Zoom the same day that she was found, and NCMEC helped to fund a visit to Florida in November of 2022 so she could meet them in person. So in a 2023 interview with ABC, it was revealed that Holly Marie's adoptive father, Philip, was the pastor at the church where Holly Marie was left at as a baby. So her adoptive father has said that the 2 women who left Holly also gave him Holly's birth certificate. So where did they get the birth certificate? As well as a note reportedly written by Dean Clouse that waived parental rights to Holly Marie. See, that could have been faked, the note, but how did they get her birth certificate? unless they've just found it. If Dean and Tina were killed in their house, and these people just happened to find the birth certificate. So after her safe recovery, the Hope for Holly project was renamed the Dean and Tina Lynn Clouse Memorial Fund, shifting the focus to identifying other unidentified decedents. A few months later, in October of 2022, growth of the Memorial Fund led to the establishment of a 501c3 charitable organization, Genealogy for Justice, with members of the Clouse and Lynn family, as well as genealogist Peacock acting as advisors. And in the Memorial Fund's first sponsored case, Wilkes County, North Carolina native Virginia Higgins Ray was identified as a 1982 Columbia, South Carolina Jane Doe on Mother's Day of 2023. So the investigation into the Clouse homicides are still considered an active criminal case, according to Harris County Police Deputy Thomas Gilliland. Due to the active status of the case, news about it is partially restricted. The forces of the investigation has since turned to finding the offenders, while the publicity surrounding Holly's return generated an increase in new leads to the Texas Attorney General's cold case unit. Okay, so let me give my voice a rest for a minute, because it does go into a little bit about this religious group and some connections. But I'll get caught up on your comments really quick and give my voice a little bit of a rest. Because I don't know, I just, whenever I hear a nomadic, and I'm the one that called them cult, they just said they were a nomadic religious group, but cult-like religious group always comes to mind when I hear something like that. Right, let me get down to where I was at. Paula says, did they arrest anyone? Which case are you talking about, Miss Paula? Chris says, I'm kind of tired, but I will rewatch the rest of it. Absolutely. You get your rest, sir. You get to feeling better. Hey, Boston Christian. Good to see you, my friend. It's always good to see you here. Welcome, Lost Soul STC. Says, hey, everyone. Good to see you. Another new name. It's good seeing all these new names here. Or if it's someone who changed their name, or YouTube changed the name and it's someone that I know that I just don't recognize the name. Talking about this one, Tina and Dean's case. As far as I know, nobody has been arrested. That's what you yes, did they arrest anyone? No, not that I have seen. Unfortunately. All right, I think I'm caught up. So all right, so we're going to talk about this religious group a little bit here. So it says in the 1970s, quote unquote, Jesus freak movements were common, and the structure of these movements could be favorable conditions for the formation of cults. However, they were decreasing in relevance by the 1980s. According to his family, Dean did have a history of interacting with such movements during his teenage years, but drifted away from them after meeting Tina. Hold on, let me get one more drink here. So during December of 1980, and what is now known to be close to the time of the homicides, A woman who introduced herself as Sister Susan reached out to the family of the couple in Florida, claiming to be interested in returning the couple's car. Red flags to me. So does that mean that Tina and Dean joined this nomadic religious cult group and had no need of their car anymore? And so, but why wouldn't have they returned it themselves? Or did some members of this nomadic religious group take them out and wanted to get rid of the car and said, oh, they wanted us to return the car? So by that time, Dean and Tina had already been out of contact for more than several weeks. The family agreed to meet Sister Susan and several other members of her religious group at the Daytona International Speedway in Daytona, Florida. Multiple elements about the meeting did not make sense to the attending family members. The religious group arranged for the meeting to be at night. During the meeting, though multiple members of the group were present, only Sister Susan spoke. The attending family members were told that Dean and Tina had joined their religious group and no longer wished to have worldly contact with their families. The group then asked Donna Casasanta to donate $1,000 to them. Police were notified of the meeting in advance, but no formal police report for the incident has been uncovered. So when Donna Casasanta later tried to report Dean as missing to the authorities, her claim was quickly dismissed as him having joined this religious group, as Sister Susan has said, with the police citing that the return of the car as proof that Dean's disappearance was voluntary. It may have been voluntary, but maybe not. Well, I mean, they just jumped to the conclusion that even though by the time that the car had been returned, Tina and Dean had been out of contact with their family for what they said several weeks. So the couple's family said that they never found it believable that the couple would join a cult, and it is now believed that the car was intentionally returned to lessen the chances of a formal investigation. It is believed that the religious group that returned the car is also the same group that left Holly at the church in Arizona. This group was observed living nomadically around the Southwest United States. Their beliefs involved male and female separation, as well as vegetarianism and not using leather goods. It also claimed to have left another baby before at a laundromat. So in 2023, it was revealed that the religious group in question was the Christ Family, a nomadic group founded by Charles Franklin Lightning Amen McHugh. In a November 2023 interview with ABC on 2020, Holly Clouse said that she believes the religious cult that her parents were involved with may have taken the lives of her parents because they wanted to leave the group. Entirely possible and plausible. So that is this religious group. So yeah, in my opinion, this religious group is the top of my list of people of interest suspects. But as always, let me know what you guys think. Very, very strange. So yeah, I'll have to look into this. What were they called? The Family of Christ, or Christ Family. Let me get back down to it. Christ Family, a nomadic group founded by Charles Franklin Lightning Amen in quotation marks McHugh. I'll have to look into this. look into this along with Larry Hall at some point. Crazy, crazy. Right, I think we have one more. We have Pamela Miracle. Let me get her. Her information. So this is Pamela Miracle. This is from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, from July of 1991. So Pamela was last seen after working her shift at Boulevard Terrace Nursing Facility. She was reported missing by her employer on 8/9/1991. Remains that were later identified as Pamela were recovered on May 1st, 1992, adjacent to I-24 in Smyrna, Tennessee. So that's about all the information on this case. So if you do have information, you can email MPD cold case at murfreesborotn.gov, or you can call 615-893-7687. I was able to find a couple of articles. The first one is from February of 2014. This is evidence in 22-year-old homicide. So Murfreesboro police are taking another look at a 22-year-old homicide investigation. While looking over cold case files, the Murfreesboro Police Department discovered a video providing new leads into the death of a 21-year-old Murfreesboro woman, Pamela Miracle, a nursing assistant at the Boulevard Terrace, who went missing on July 25th, 1991. The last person to see her alive was her boyfriend, Clarence Parker. He picked Pamela up after work and dropped her off at the Yellow Cab Company where she had left her car. She was never seen again after that. Although the couple had been living together, Parker never filed. The boyfriend never filed a missing persons report, and he says that he thought that Pamela had just left him, Police say Parker was an early suspect, and they became even more suspicious when they found Pamela's personal belongings, including her purse, still at the couple's Murfreesboro residence. So, speaking as a woman, us girls, which I don't carry a purse anymore, but back when I did, I never went anywhere without my purse. So if she was going to leave, like he claimed that she just up and left, she most definitely would have taken her purse with her, in my opinion. So cold case detective Tommy Massey says that people who knew the couple recall his making threats to take her life if she ever tried to leave him. So he says, quote, it appears that they had a pretty turbulent relationship and that there was quite a history of violence between the two, end quote. So 10 months after her disappearance, Pamela's remains were found in Smyrna near the Rocky Fort area. Police never developed sufficient evidence to charge Parker, and the case went cold. Detective Massey says this case is like a puzzle, and he is dedicated to finding the missing piece to solve this two-decade-old murder. He says, quote, I feel a connection to the family, kind of feel like now I own the case too, so I feel like an obligation to the family to try to do something to give them some closure. You always hope that there's justice somewhere for the victim, end quote. Absolutely. So Massey hopes then that this new evidence will lead to the offender and finally give the family peace. He says DNA testing is being done, and he's working on re-interviewing people that police spoke with 22 years ago. Police are also looking for Parker, and they suspect that at that time that this article was written that he was in the Oklahoma City area. So once again, officials are asking anyone with information about the case to call the Murfreesboro Police Department at 615-893-1311. I think I have one more. short article. And this is from January of 2018. 26-year-old Murfreesboro cold case remains unsolved. So Sergeant Tommy Massey settles in with not one but two case files on the disappearance and homicide of Pam Miracle. Her story begins the night that she went missing, but police were not notified until weeks later. Sergeant Massey said, quote, she had been missing approximately 2 weeks before the police were ever notified that she was a missing person. And at the time, that was done by her employer. So the boyfriend wasn't the one that reported her missing. It was her employer. Surprise, surprise. So Miracle was a nursing tech at Boulevard Terrace. She also lived with her boyfriend, Clarence Parker. Their relationship was reported to be violent at times. Detective Massey said, as described by her co-workers, it was not uncommon for her to come to work with some bruises, black eyes, things of that nature, end quote. So Parker's changing accounts as to what happened to Miracle led detectives to consider him as a person of interest. However, the case went cold for about 10 months until human remains were found off of Seven Oaks Boulevard in Smyrna. Lab testing proved them to be Pamela's remains. In 2016, her skull was taken to the body farm at the University of Tennessee, where it was determined that she died by blunt force trauma. Her offender is still out there, and the only person of interest in the case so far is now living in Oklahoma City, and that is the boyfriend. So whoever wrote this article asked Detective Massey, what does your gut tell you? And Massey said, quote, I certainly believe he is involved in the case. Did he kill her? I can't tell you definitely or definitively, end quote. So as the years have passed, so have some of Pamela's family. Unfortunately, her parents have since passed away. Her sister was in poor health. However, Detective Massey is in this for the long run. He says, quote, to me, it's the ultimate responsibility in law enforcement. It's been 26 years, and at some point she needs some peace, and so does her family, end quote. Absolutely. So one piece of information can break this case. So if you remember or know anything that could help detectives, once again, contact the Murfreesboro Police Department at 615-893-1311. So yeah, once again, just personally, my opinion, my number one suspect is the boyfriend. But like I said earlier, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. Let's see. As far as says, why would he think that she would leave him? Who knows? Us from looking at the outside with this information would say because he was abusive. But I don't, as far as publicly that I've read, he never gave any reason why he thought that she would leave. So, in my opinion, I don't think she left. I think something happened to her by somebody, possibly the boyfriend, possibly somebody else. But that is a good question. And he probably didn't even give a reason. He just said, "Oh, she left. She left." And I'm sure that whoever the law enforcement that was doing the interview talking to him probably asked him, "Well, why do you think?" Probably asked that same question. Why do you think she left? And who knows if he gave any answer or what answer that he gave. Don't know. Right, let me make sure I didn't have anything else on her. And I think that was our last one. Yep, that was our last one for the night. All right, so if anybody has any last thoughts, last questions, anything else you guys want to talk about before we get out of here, please put it in the chat. Let's see. Probably won't be able to do a live stream Friday, so we'll be back Monday night with our missing person Monday, and I have to look at what state and city we're gonna do Monday. Oh, Miss Paul says let's go to 1 a.m. That would be what? Midnight here. I don't think I can do that. Miss Paul says, are you watching Limit? Yes, we've been DVRing them because this is Mom's long week to work, and she has to get up at like 4:30 in the morning to go to work, so she goes to bed at like 8 o'clock. So I've been DVRing them, and we've been watching them in the afternoons or early evening when I get home from work before she goes to bed. But yeah, we've been watching them. Thank you, Mustang. Always glad to have you here. Ms. Wall says, what do you think of Nancy Guthrie's case? Man, there has been, pardon my vaping, apparently there's been a lot of stuff going on with that case because they was it last night they had taken I don't think they're calling him a person of interest, took someone into question, and they were searching this house, but apparently they've released him. He has nothing to do with this case. And now I think I read this afternoon or this evening when I got home from work that they were searching roads and stuff around her house. That is the last that I've heard. So if anybody has heard anything within the last couple of hours since we started this live stream, almost 3 hours ago, I don't know. What do you guys think? You think it was just some random? To me, and this is just my opinion, just from everything that I've seen, that's been reported. To me, I don't think it was random. Just some random robbery gone wrong. Especially with these ransom things coming in. In my opinion, and I don't think the family had anything to do with it, because one certain reporter came out and said that she had heard from a credible, reliable source that she had known for 40 years that the Annie's husband Carlos was the prime suspect. But you notice that none of the other news outlets, mainstream or otherwise, picked that up and ran with it. So I don't believe the family had anything to do with it. It could be wrong, but I don't think. But I don't think that it was totally random. It had to be somebody who either had delivered to that house. She did have staff that worked for her. It might not have necessarily been staff that worked for her, but maybe somebody who knew, were either friends or family of some of the staff that worked for her, that found out, hey, this they might not have known exactly who she was, that she was Savannah Guthrie's mother, but knew that she was wealthy and that they could take her and get some money, Bitcoin or whatever they were asking for. And then, or it could have been, like I said, I don't think it's random. I think they knew of her. They might not. And something I thought about and somebody mentioned was that they knew of her, but they did not know that she was the daughter of a famous TV personality, and that when whatever happened, they took her, and then everything blew up in the media, and they're like, oh crap, this is bigger than we thought it was, and oh holy crap, what are we going to do now? We've really put our foot in it, what are we going to do? That could be the situation. I said this is just all my opinion. I don't know, or it could have been, it could have been some totally random. They just said, "Hey, we're gonna go. This is a nice neighborhood. We're gonna, And then, of course, they released that video of the Ring camera video, which is so incredibly creepy and disturbing. I mean, it could have been somebody random that was going to go in for a robbery, but then I don't think robbery, in my opinion, I don't think robbery was the motive, because if robbery was just the motive and then it was a robbery gone wrong, I don't think they would have put in this, started sending this ransom notes for the Bitcoin, I don't know. It's just, Miss Paula says red flag. Yeah, definitely lots of red flags. Yeah, see, I agree with Nicole. Nicole says, I think it was someone that had been working on the house at some point. See, that's what I'm thinking. Somebody that had been there, had done some work at the house, like Nicole said, done some work at the house, yard work, landscaping, work on the house, said, hey, this might not have, like I said, necessarily known who she was, but just knew that she was wealthy, and said, hey, let's just take her and try to get some money out of the family. And then, like I said, when, it blew up in the media because she was, the mother of a famous TV personality, they're like, oh crap, what did we do? What are we going to do now? I don't think they expected it, to blow up like that. So to me, that is top of my list of what possibly could happen, happened. Yeah, very good point. Yeah, it had to be somebody that, like I said, that had, knew of her, like Nicole said, done some work. Yeah, Mustang said, yeah, that guy that they arrested was a delivery driver. I heard maybe he delivered something there. Yeah, and see, I think they said he was maybe a FedEx driver. And see, there was, I believe, a FedEx box there on the porch. So maybe he had delivered this FedEx package to her. And then maybe in some video surveillance that they found somewhere, but it would look like he would have been driving a FedEx truck. So I don't know exactly how they came to hone in on him. I know they were looking, I think, weren't they looking at some footage from like a gas station, a Circle K or something? So I don't know how they honed in on his vehicle and on him. I'm not completely, I haven't had time to, since this happened. It happened late last night. I watched a little bit of it on, I think CNN was reporting on it. So I don't know how they exactly honed in on him. I just know that they found out who he was. They were searching the vehicle. They got a warrant to search the house that apparently, I guess he lived there with his, I think he was actually lived with the owner of the houses. He was married to the owner of the house's daughter or something to that effect. So I don't know exactly how they honed in on him. I don't know. But yeah, he was a delivery driver. Nicole says, yes, she recently had some things done to her house, like her roof painted. Yeah. And see, and weren't they at one point, they were searching or looking on the roof. Now, I don't know if you can access inside the house from the top of the roof. I'm assuming not, because they have showed, like from drone footage, the top of the house. I don't think you could have gotten into the house through the top, but they were looking at the roof at some point. I do remember seeing footage of that. Yeah, Paula said he did. Yeah, I did see part of an interview with him. But yeah, he did say that he was a delivery driver, and he didn't even know. In this partial interview that I watched, he said he had no idea who Savannah Guthrie was. He had never watched the Today Show, had no idea who she was or who Nancy was. He said, like, I don't know. I've got nothing to do with it. I don't know who these people are. Don't know who Savannah Guthrie is. Never watched the Today Show. And I believed him. I mean, And apparently the police did too, because they released him. So it's just crazy. I know, like I said, I agree with Nicole that it had to be somebody who had been doing some work at that house, and just, like I said, maybe not necessarily knew who she was, but that she was wealthy, and hey, let's take her and get some money or some Bitcoin or whatever, make some money. And then they took the wrong woman who had like I said, a famous daughter, and the S hit the fan. So, and then they're like, oh, we messed up really bad. So anything else? Also, they had that mass pew-pewing in Canada. The first time that had happened in, I can't remember how many years. I think 9 people. I don't know if that's including the offender, lost their lives. So that was horrible. I mean, you just don't hear about things, or I've never hear about things happening like that happening in Canada. Of course, unfortunately, it happens a lot here in the U.S., but that was horrible. So anyway, just lots of thoughts, prayers, and good vibes going out to everybody. Everybody, the whole world needs thoughts, prayers, and good vibes. At this point. Right. So if anybody doesn't have anything else, I feel my voice going again. So we'll get out of here. So once again, Monday we'll be back live with Missing Person Monday. I'll get everything together for whatever state, city we're doing. So everybody have a good rest of their week. Let me multitask here. Let me get my Find the Fur Baby outro here. There we go. Once again, hold on. Once again, thank you to Miss Farr for gifting the Southern Gal True Crime membership with Patriotism Got. So once again, he got the moo cow and was a recipient of the membership. So thank you again to Miss Farr. So until Monday, and I stayed up really late last night. I got a lot of pre-recorded videos recorded, so I'll have plenty to upload for the next couple of weeks. One will probably upload Friday. And then next week I'll schedule them to upload next week throughout the week. So be on the lookout for that. Once again, if you're new here, thank you for hanging out with us. If this is your cup of tea, if you like the content, please subscribe. And once again, if you think make sure that you're still subscribed. If you have subscribed to the channel, because sometimes, the YouTube gods unsubscribe people from channels, apparently. So just make sure you're still subscribed. Have your notification bell set to all, so you'll know when I go live or upload a video. I think that is it. So once again, everybody have a good rest of their week. Have a good weekend. And I will see you guys Monday night. And once again, I'll have to go back to find the fur babies. I'll leave you with my fur babies, Tigger and Biscuit, who have been, I have to go check on them because they have been very quiet while I've been doing the video. They're kind of like kids. When kids get quiet, that's when you should be worried. Oh, all right. So I will see you guys Monday. Love you guys. Be safe. Stay warm or cold, whatever you want to be. Take care of each other. We are all we have. Be kind. And I will see you Monday.